Sarah Mitchell sat on the hard concrete floor of Wellington Market in downtown Brisbane, her white cane clutched in trembling hands. 3 hours had passed since her husband, Tom, said he needed to use the restroom. The busy sounds of shoppers echoed around her as people hurried past, their footsteps a constant reminder of her isolation. Sarah had been a successful customer service representative before losing her sight to diabetes complications 2 years ago. She'd adapted well, learning to navigate Brisbane's streets and maintaining her independence. Tom had been her colleague, always offering help and speaking kindly. "Your blindness doesn't matter to me," he'd whispered during their courtship. "I love you for who you are." But 6 months into their marriage, things changed. Tom started coming home late, snapping at her questions. When Sarah lost her job during company restructuring, he became cold and distant. He complained constantly about her cooking, her inability to see his expressions, everything. Last month, he'd started mentioning his coworker, Rachel. "She's so capable, Sarah. She can see everything, do everything." This morning, Tom had seemed unusually cheerful. "Let's go to the market today," he'd suggested. "I want to buy you something nice." Sarah had been hopeful, carefully choosing her best dress and applying makeup. Maybe their marriage was improving. At the market, Tom had been nervous, checking his phone constantly. "Sarah, wait here," he'd said near the food court. "I need the restroom. Don't move. I'll be right back." Now, market security guard James Chen approached her gently. "Ma'am, are you all right? Do you need help?" Sarah explained through tears. James had seen this before, people abandoning those who became inconvenient. His heart broke for this young woman. "Let me help you to the security office. We can call someone." Unknown to Sarah, across the market, a young man named Marcus Hayes had been watching everything unfold. Marcus, son of Brisbane's Mayor Robert Hayes, often came here to escape the pressures of his privileged life and observe ordinary people's struggles. He'd noticed Sarah when she first arrived with Tom, seeing how impatiently her husband treated her, constantly looking around as if ashamed to be seen with her. When Marcus saw Tom sneak out through the back exit while Sarah waited faithfully, his anger flared. His late mother had taught him that character was measured by how you treated those who couldn't fight back. He pulled out his phone. "Hello, this is Marcus Hayes. I need you to run a background check on someone. His name is Tom Mitchell." "Yes, it's urgent." As James helped Sarah toward the security office, Marcus made another call. "Lisa, come to Wellington Market immediately with the car. There's a lady here who needs our help." Sarah had no idea that her life was about to change forever. Sometimes when one door closes, God opens a window, and sometimes that window leads somewhere unexpected. Can you believe what just happened? Tom actually abandoned his blind wife like she was nothing. But Marcus Hayes isn't just any wealthy young man. He has plans that will make your jaw drop. If this story is hitting you in the feels, smash that like button right now. Drop a comment telling me, what would you do if you witnessed someone abandon their spouse like this? And listen, you need to subscribe because it's going to show you exactly what happens when Marcus steps into Sarah's life. Trust me, you've never seen karma work this fast. Marcus Hayes stood in the security office watching Sarah cry softly into tissues James had provided. His jaw was clenched tight. In his 28 years, he'd never felt such anger towards someone he'd never met. But let me tell you who Marcus really was and why what he was about to do would shake Tom's world. Marcus was the only son of Mayor Robert Hayes, one of Brisbane's most influential figures. Unlike many politicians' children, Marcus had been raised with strong values. His mother, the late Grace Hayes, had died when Marcus was 16. Before she passed, she made him promise to always protect those who couldn't protect themselves. "Marcus, my son," she'd whispered from a hospital bed, "wealth and power mean nothing if you don't use them to help others. Promise me you'll never become like those heartless people who step on others." Marcus had kept that promise. While his friends from wealthy families partied, Marcus worked quietly helping ordinary citizens. He'd started a foundation providing jobs for disabled people, funding community programs, and helping abuse survivors start new lives. Nobody knew about his good works because he never sought publicity. Now, watching Sarah in her deepest pain, Marcus felt his mother speaking to him. This woman needed help, and he had the power to provide it. "Mr. Chen," Marcus said, walking into the office. "I witnessed what happened to this lady. I'd like to help." Sarah looked up, startled. She couldn't see Marcus, but she heard authority in his voice. "Who are you?" she asked cautiously. "My name is Marcus. I saw your husband leave you here, and I want to make sure you get home safely." Sarah felt ashamed that a stranger had witnessed her humiliation. "Thank you, but I'll be fine. I just need to call my sister." "Ma'am, your phone is off," James said gently. "And you mentioned you don't have credit." Marcus stepped forward. "Sarah, may I call you Sarah? I have a car outside. My driver can take you anywhere you need to go. No strings attached." Sarah hesitated. Her mother had warned her about accepting help from strange men. But what choice did she have? She had no money, no way to get home to her sister in Paddington, and it was getting dark. "Why would you help me?" she asked. "You don't even know me." Marcus sat down beside her, his voice soft and kind. "My mother always told me that when you see someone in trouble, you don't ask questions. You just help. That's what separates good people from bad people." Something in his voice reminded Sarah of her own father, gentle but strong. Against her better judgment, she found herself trusting this stranger. "Okay," she said quietly. "Thank you." As they walked toward the exit, Marcus's assistant Lisa arrived with the car. In the vehicle, Sarah sat quietly while Marcus made phone calls. She heard enough to know he was setting something in motion. "Yes, I want you to find everything about Tom Mitchell. He works at Premier Insurance Group on Queen Street." Marcus's voice was calm but determined. "I want his employment history, bank records, everything. By tomorrow morning." Sarah's heart beat faster. "What are you going to do?" "Nothing yet," Marcus said. "I'd just like to know who I'm dealing with." They reached Sarah's small apartment in Paddington just as her sister Emma was arriving home from work. Emma took one look at Sarah's tear-stained face and exploded with anger. "Sarah, where is that useless husband of yours? Why are you crying?" Sarah broke down and told her everything. Emma's face grew darker with each word. "I knew it," Emma shouted. "I told you that man was no good." Marcus, who had been standing quietly by the door, cleared his throat. "Excuse me, ladies. Sarah, I'll check on you tomorrow to make sure you're okay. Here's my card." Emma's eyes went wide when she saw it. "Marcus Hayes, Executive Director, Hayes Community Foundation. Are you related to Mayor Hayes?" Marcus nodded. "He's my father, but please don't make a big deal about it. I just want to help your sister." After Marcus left, Emma sat next to Sarah, still holding his card. "Sarah, do you know who just helped you? That's the mayor's son. The same Marcus Hayes who built that community center in Logan and that hospital extension in Ipswich." That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. Michael's abandonment had broken her heart, but Marcus's kindness had given her hope. Meanwhile, in his home in Ascot, Marcus was reading a preliminary report about Tom Mitchell. What he found made his blood boil. Tom had been embezzling from his company, cheating on Sarah with multiple women, and had taken out loans using Sarah's identity without her knowledge. "This man needs to learn a lesson," Marcus muttered, reaching for his phone to call his father's lawyer. In a hotel room across town, Tom was celebrating with his girlfriend Rachel, having no idea that his actions at the market had been witnessed by Brisbane's most powerful young man. 3 days later, Tom Mitchell walked into Premier Insurance like any other day. He had no idea that his boss, David Cooper, was sitting in his office surrounded by lawyers and accountants, reviewing evidence of his crimes. At 9:15 a.m., Tom was called to the conference room for an urgent meeting. He straightened his tie confidently, thinking perhaps it was about the promotion he'd been expecting. But when he opened the door, His blood turned to ice. Sitting around the table were Mr. Cooper, the head of human resources, the company's chief lawyer, and 2 police officers. "Tom Mitchell," said one officer, standing. "You are under arrest for embezzlement, fraud, and identity theft." As handcuffs clicked around his wrists, Tom's mind raced. How had they found out? He'd been so careful. "We have bank records, forged documents, witness statements," Mr. Cooper said with disgust. "You stole over $300,000 from this company and used your disabled wife's identity to do it." "How did you find out?" Tom whispered. Mr. Cooper smiled grimly. "Let's just say you picked the wrong woman to mess with. Sarah has friends in high places now." Meanwhile, Sarah was at Marcus's office in the CBD, surrounded by lawyers who explained the legal proceedings that would clear her name. Marcus watched Sarah carefully. Despite everything, she listened quietly, asked thoughtful questions, and maintained a dignity that impressed everyone. "Sarah," said Attorney Benjamin Forster, "we've frozen Tom's accounts and seized his assets. We should recover most of the money he stole. But I must warn you, this case will be in the newspapers." Sarah nodded. "I understand. I just want to make sure no other woman goes through what I did." Marcus felt his chest tighten with emotion. Even after being betrayed, Sarah's first thought was protecting other women. "There's something else," Benjamin continued. "Tom's girlfriend, Rachel Barnes, has been trying to reach you. She wants to apologize and says she has information that might help your case." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "I want to hear what she has to say. Maybe she's another one of Tom's victims." 2 hours later, Rachel walked nervously into Marcus's office. When she saw the expensive surroundings, the team of lawyers, and Marcus himself, she realized how much trouble Tom, and possibly she, was in. "You must be Rachel," Sarah said quietly. Rachel had prepared a speech, but seeing Sarah made all her words disappear. This wasn't the weak, burdensome wife Tom had described. This was a dignified, beautiful woman who had been betrayed. "I'm so sorry," Rachel whispered through tears. "I didn't know he was stealing money. He told me his marriage was already over. He never told me you were blind. Did you know he abandoned me at the market?" Sarah asked. Rachel's heart broke. "No. He told me he'd left you at your sister's house. He said you'd agreed to separate. Do you love him?" Sarah asked. Rachel was shocked by the question. I thought I did. But the man I loved doesn't exist, does he?" Sarah nodded slowly. "Then you're another one of his victims too." Rachel revealed she had recordings on her phone of conversations where Tom bragged about manipulating Sarah and using her disability status to get benefits. As Marcus listened, his jaw tightened with anger, but he also felt admiration for Sarah, who was showing forgiveness and compassion. "Rachel," Sarah said gently, "I forgive you. But I need you to help me make sure Tom never does this to another woman." Rachel nodded through tears. "I'll do whatever it takes." As Rachel left, Marcus turned to Sarah with awe in his voice. "Sarah, how can you forgive so easily after everything?" Sarah smiled sadly. "Hatred is poison you drink hoping someone else will die. I refuse to let Tom poison my heart." Marcus felt something shift in his chest. He was falling in love with Sarah's spirit, her strength, her incredible capacity for forgiveness. The Brisbane District Court was packed beyond capacity. Everyone wanted to witness the trial of Tom Mitchell, the man who'd abandoned his blind wife at a market and stolen hundreds of thousands from her. News cameras lined the back, reporters scribbling frantically. Tom sat at the defendant's table in prison uniform, hands shackled, looking nothing like the confident man who'd walked out of Wellington Market weeks ago. His eyes were hollow, his face gaunt. The prosecutor, Amanda Chen, was known for her thorough preparation. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," she began, "this case is about more than money. This is about a man who systematically betrayed the woman who trusted him most." She displayed evidence on large screens: bank records, forged signatures, photographs of expensive gifts Tom had bought Rachel with stolen money. The evidence will show that Mr. Mitchell stole over $300,000 from Premier Insurance over 2 years. But that wasn't enough. He opened fraudulent credit accounts using his wife's information, stole her disability benefits, and forged her signature on loans, all while she trusted him completely. The security footage from the market played, and the courtroom gasped as they watched Tom sneak out while Sarah waited faithfully. And finally, when his lies began catching up, Mr. Mitchell abandoned his blind wife at a market like she was trash. Tom's lawyer tried mounting a defense, but the evidence was overwhelming. When Rachel took the witness stand, the courtroom held its breath. "Mr. Mitchell told me he was unhappily married," Rachel testified, her voice shaking. "He said his wife was dependent but never told me she was blind. He made me think their marriage was already over." The recordings were played, and Tom's own voice filled the space, boasting about his manipulations. The courtroom erupted in angry murmurs. But the most powerful testimony came from Sarah herself. When she walked to the witness stand with her white cane, the entire courtroom fell silent. "I loved Tom with everything I had," Sarah testified, her voice clear and strong. "When you're blind, you have to rely on people you love to be your eyes. Tom was my eyes, and he used that trust to rob me, literally." "Can you describe the day Mr. Mitchell abandoned you?" Amanda asked gently. Sarah took a deep breath. "We'd gone shopping together. Tom seemed happy. I thought maybe our marriage was healing. He told me to wait in the food court while he went to the restroom. I waited 3 hours before a security guard told me my husband had left." "How did that make you feel?" "Like I was nothing. Like 2 years of marriage, of cooking his meals, supporting his dreams, like none of it mattered. I felt worthless." Sarah paused. "But the hardest part was learning that while I sat on that floor crying, Tom was celebrating with another woman using money he'd stolen from me." When Sarah finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the courtroom. The jury deliberated for only 2 hours. "We find the defendant Tom Mitchell guilty on all counts." Judge Patricia O'Brien looked at Tom with contempt. "Mr. Mitchell, in my 30 years on the bench, I've rarely seen such calculated betrayal. You systematically exploited a vulnerable woman who loved you. I sentence you to 15 years in prison with no parole for 5 years, and order you to pay full restitution to both Mrs. Sarah Mitchell and Premier Insurance." As bailiffs led Tom away, he turned to look at Sarah one last time. She was sitting in the front row next to Marcus, and for the first time since the trial began, she was smiling. 1 year later, Sarah Hayes stood in a beautiful garden in Brisbane Botanic Gardens, wearing an elegant ivory dress. The scent of jasmine filled the air as a string quartet played softly. She was about to marry Marcus Hayes, but more importantly, she was about to launch something that would change thousands of lives. The wedding was intimate, just close family and friends. Sarah had insisted on keeping it small, despite Marcus's father suggesting a large society event. "Our wedding should be about love, not show," Sarah had said, and Marcus had agreed completely. As Sarah walked down the garden path guided by her sister Emma, Marcus stood at the altar with tears in his eyes. This woman had transformed from someone broken and abandoned into someone who inspired everyone around her. "Sarah," Marcus said during his vows, his voice strong and clear, "I promise to be your eyes when you need to see, your strength when you feel weak, your voice when you need to be heard. I promise to protect your heart, cherish your spirit, and love you the way God intended." Sarah's vows were equally powerful. "Marcus, you found me broken and helped me become whole. You saw me abandoned and gave me a home. I promise to support your dreams, be your partner in all things, and love you not just for what you've done for me, but for who you are, a man of honor and compassion." During the reception at a nearby venue, Marcus made an announcement that had everyone cheering. "Sarah and I have learned that sometimes terrible things happen not to break us, but to break us open, to expand our hearts and our capacity for compassion. Today, we're announcing the launch of the Phoenix Foundation for Women's Empowerment." Sarah stepped forward to address their guests. "This foundation will provide microloans to women starting businesses, legal aid for women experiencing financial abuse, counseling for survivors, and educational scholarships. Tom Mitchell thought abandoning me would end my story. Instead, he gave me the beginning of a story that will help thousands of women write their own happy endings. The applause was thunderous. By the end of the evening, they'd raised over $2 million. But the most touching moment came when Sarah's former colleague from Premier Insurance, Mrs. Patricia Williams, approached her. "Sarah, I need to apologize. When you worked with us, some of us whispered about your blindness, wondered if you could really do the job effectively. We were wrong. You weren't disabled, we were, by our inability to see your true worth." Sarah hugged Patricia warmly. "We all learn and grow. What matters is that we're better today than yesterday." As the evening wound down, Sarah and Marcus stood looking out over the Brisbane River. Sarah couldn't see the city lights reflecting on the water, but she felt Marcus's love surrounding her like a warm embrace. "Mrs. Hayes," Marcus said, using her new married name for the first time, "are you ready for our next adventure?" Sarah smiled, thinking about the Phoenix Foundation, her plans to return to university to study counseling, and all the women they would help together. "Mr. Hayes, I've been ready for this adventure my whole life. I just needed the right person to take it with." 3 years later, Sarah would complete her degree in counseling psychology. The Phoenix Foundation would help over 5,000 women across Queensland. And Sarah and Marcus would welcome a daughter they named Hope. As for Tom Mitchell, he served his sentence in full. Prison changed him. He earned his degree, became a counselor for other inmates, and finally understood the magnitude of what he'd thrown away. But by then, Sarah had moved on to a future brighter than anything he could have given her. Grace had found her happily ever after. She'd proved that the most beautiful phoenix rises from the ugliest ashes, and that love, real love, always finds a way to turn curses into blessings. "I'm crying." Sarah went from a market floor to helping thousands of women rise from their ashes. She went from abandoned wife to Mrs. Hayes, founder of an organization changing lives. And Tom learning his lesson too late while Sarah builds her beautiful future? The poetry of this justice. If this ending just gave you all the feels, smash that like button with everything you've got. Drop a phoenix emoji if you believe in rising from your ashes. Comment, "I am a phoenix," if this story inspired you. And honey, subscribe because we have more inspiring stories like this coming your way. Remember, your worst day can become the doorway to your best life. Every ending is just a new beginning waiting to happen. This story is dedicated to every person who has ever felt abandoned, betrayed, or broken. You are not the end of your story. You are the author of your comeback. See you in the next video. Retrema continue edit BONUS content. Where are they now? Epilogue. 5 years later. 5 years after their wedding, Sarah Hayes stood at a podium in Sydney's International Convention Centre, addressing over 2,000 delegates at the Australian Women's Empowerment Summit. The woman who had once sat crying on a market floor was now a keynote speaker, inspiring audiences across the country. "Honourable guests," Sarah began, her voice carrying confidently across the vast hall. "5 years ago, I was abandoned by my husband at a market in Brisbane. I sat on that cold floor for 3 hours, believing my life was over. Today, I stand before you as proof that one person's pain can become the world's healing." In the audience, Marcus watched with pride as his wife commanded the room. Their journey together had been extraordinary, but Sarah's personal growth had been the most remarkable transformation he'd ever witnessed. The Phoenix Foundation had expanded beyond anyone's wildest dreams. What started with $2 million in wedding donations had grown into a $50 million organization operating across 3 Australian states. They'd helped over 15,000 women rebuild their lives, provided legal aid to thousands more, and awarded scholarships to hundreds of young women pursuing higher education. But the foundation's crown jewel was the Phoenix Centers, safe spaces in major cities where women experiencing domestic abuse could receive comprehensive support. Brisbane now had 3 centres, with 2 more planned for Sydney and Melbourne. Each centre was staffed partly by women who had overcome their own experiences with abuse, creating a powerful network of support. Sarah had also completed her master's degree in counseling psychology from the University of Queensland, graduating with honors. Her thesis on financial abuse in Australian marriages had been published in several academic journals and was now required reading in social work programs across the country. Sarah, a journalist had asked during a recent interview, "How does it feel knowing that your story has inspired a national conversation about financial abuse?" Sarah had smiled thoughtfully. "It feels like my pain had a purpose. Every woman who reads my story and recognizes the warning signs in her own relationship, every man who reads it and examines his own behavior, every person who decides to help someone in need. They're all part of turning tragedy into triumph." Now, as Sarah concluded her keynote speech, she shared news that brought the audience to their feet in applause. "Today, I'm proud to announce that the Phoenix Foundation is partnering with the Australian government to establish a national financial abuse hotline. Starting next month, women across Australia will have 24/7 access to counselors, legal advisors, and resources to help them escape financially abusive situations." Marcus rushed to the stage as Sarah finished, embracing her tightly. "I'm so proud of you," he whispered. But Sarah had one more surprise. "I also want to share some personal news," she said, her hand moving to her stomach. "Marcus and I are expecting our second child. Our daughter Hope will soon have a little brother we plan to name Justice." The applause was deafening. The unexpected letter. That evening, back in their Brisbane home in Ascot, Sarah and Marcus were reading bedtime stories to 3-year-old Hope when their housekeeper brought in the day's mail. Among the usual correspondence was a letter that made Sarah's breath catch. The return address was Woodford Correctional Centre. "It's from Tom," she said quietly. Marcus tensed. "You don't have to read it if you don't want to." "No," Sarah said. "I think I need to." Marcus read the letter aloud. "Dear Sarah, I hope this letter finds you well, though I imagine you're wondering why I'm writing after all these years. I've heard about your speech in Sydney on the prison radio, and I wanted you to know how incredibly proud I am of what you've become. I know I have no right to pride in your accomplishments. I gave up that right when I abandoned you. But I hope you'll allow me this small feeling of joy knowing that the woman I once hurt so deeply has become someone who heals others. Prison has given me time to become the man I should have been when we were married. I've completed my bachelor's degree in social work and now counsel other inmates dealing with guilt and regret. I've been teaching a class on healthy relationships and financial literacy. It's the least I can do to make amends for my past. I'm writing because I'm being released next month after serving 8 years of my sentence. I earned early release for good behavior and my work with other inmates. I want you to know that I have no intention of contacting you or disrupting your beautiful life. You've built something extraordinary with Marcus, and you deserve every happiness. But I wanted to ask one favor. The Phoenix Foundation has a program where men who've committed domestic abuse can attend counseling and workshops. I'd like to participate, not because a judge ordered it, but because I want to help other men avoid the mistakes I made. I want to teach them what it cost me to betray someone's trust. If you're uncomfortable with this, I understand completely. I can seek help elsewhere. But if you're willing, I'd be honored to contribute to the work you're doing. I also wanted you to know that I've been in touch with Rachel. She's doing well, married now with a child, working at a domestic violence shelter. We both carry the weight of what we did to you, and we both try every day to be better people because of it. Sarah, you turned your worst day into your greatest purpose. You proved that betrayal doesn't define the betrayed. It reveals their strength. Thank you for showing me and thousands of others what grace truly looks like. With eternal respect and gratitude. Tom Mitchell. Sarah was quiet for a long moment after Marcus finished reading. Hope had fallen asleep in her father's arms, oblivious to the emotional weight of the letter. "What do you think?" Marcus asked gently. "I think," Sarah said slowly, "that the old Sarah would have been afraid. Afraid that seeing Tom would bring back the pain. Afraid that forgiving him would somehow diminish what he did." "And the new Sarah?" Marcus prompted. Sarah smiled. "The new Sarah knows that forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about refusing to let the past control your future. If Tom genuinely wants to help other men avoid his mistakes, then maybe his story can prevent other women from experiencing what I did. The meeting. 3 weeks later, Sarah sat in a conference room at Phoenix Foundation headquarters. Tom Mitchell sat across from her, looking nothing like the man who'd abandoned her 5 years ago. He was thinner, his hair graying at the temples, his eyes carrying the weight of genuine remorse. Marcus stood by the door, protective but trusting Sarah's decision to meet with Tom. "Sarah," Tom said, his voice shaking slightly, "thank you for agreeing to see me." "Tom," Sarah replied calmly, "I'm not here to rehash the past. I'm here because Marcus and I believe in second chances. We've seen too many lives transformed by the Phoenix Foundation to believe that people can't change." Tom nodded, tears forming in his eyes. "I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that watching what you've built from the ashes of my betrayal, it's both the most beautiful and most painful thing I've ever witnessed." "Tom, I forgave you years ago," Sarah said simply. "Not because you deserved it, but because I deserved peace. Carrying hatred was poisoning my own heart." Over the next hour, they discussed Tom's proposal. He would participate in the Phoenix Foundation's program for men who'd committed financial abuse. More importantly, he would share his story, the thinking patterns that led to his crimes, the justifications he made, the warning signs he ignored. "If hearing my story stops even one man from making the same mistakes," Tom said, "then maybe some good can come from the terrible things I did." Sarah agreed, with one condition: you have to be completely honest. No sugarcoating, no excuses. These men need to hear the brutal truth about how your choices destroyed lives. "I promise," Tom said. "Complete honesty." As Tom left, he paused at the door. "Sarah, one more thing. I'm sorry isn't enough. It will never be enough. But I want you to know that you've taught me more about strength, dignity, and grace than anyone else in my life. You're an extraordinary woman, and I'm sorry it took losing you to realize that." After he left, Marcus held Sarah close. "Are you okay?" "More than okay," Sarah said. "I just proved to myself that he has no power over me anymore. I'm not the broken woman he left at that market. I'm someone who can face her past without fear." The Phoenix Foundation Annual Gala. 6 months later, the Phoenix Foundation held its 5th annual gala at Brisbane City Hall. Over 1,000 guests attended, including politicians, business leaders, celebrities, and, most importantly, hundreds of women whose lives had been transformed by the Foundation's work. The evening's program included speeches from several survivors, but the most powerful moment came when Tom Mitchell took the stage. "My name is Tom Mitchell," he began, his voice steady despite visible nervousness. "5 years ago, I abandoned my blind wife at Wellington Market. I stole over $300,000 from her and my employer. I manipulated her trust and exploited her disability. I am the worst kind of coward." The room was silent. "I'm not here to ask for sympathy or forgiveness. I'm here to tell every person in this room, especially the men, that abuse isn't always physical. Financial abuse is real. Emotional abuse is real. And the damage can last a lifetime." Tom shared his story with brutal honesty, the thought patterns that led him to steal, the justifications he made for his betrayals, the moment-by-moment decision to abandon Sarah. "I thought I was trapped in my marriage," Tom continued. "But the truth is, I was trapped by my own greed, insecurity, and cowardice. Sarah wasn't my burden, my own character flaws were my burden." He gestured to where Sarah sat with Marcus. "That woman right there showed me what real strength looks like. She didn't destroy me when she had every right to. Instead, she built something beautiful that helps people like me become better. That's the difference between a victim and a victor. Victims are destroyed by their pain. Victors use their pain to heal others." The standing ovation lasted 5 full minutes. Later, a journalist approached Sarah. "Mrs. Hayes, how does it feel having your ex-husband speak at your gala?" Sarah smiled. "It feels like closure. It feels like proof that the Phoenix Foundation's mission works. People can change, grow, and contribute to society. Tom's story will help other men recognize abusive patterns before they destroy their families. That's what matters. The ultimate redemption. 2 years after the gala, the Phoenix Foundation published a groundbreaking research report, From Perpetrator to Advocate: Can Abusers Change? The study followed 100 men who'd gone through the foundation's rehabilitation program, including Tom Mitchell. The findings were remarkable. Men who heard directly from their victims and other perpetrators were 73% less likely to reoffend compared to traditional rehabilitation programs. Tom's involvement in the program had been instrumental. His willingness to speak honestly about his crimes had helped dozens of men face their own behavior. Tom had also remarried, not to Rachel, who'd moved on with her own life, but to a woman he met in a church support group. He worked as a financial counselor at a community center, helping low-income families manage their money and avoid predatory loans. "I'll spend the rest of my life trying to balance the scales," Tom told a reporter. "I can never undo what I did to Sarah. But I can prevent other men from making the same mistakes. Every person I help is my way of saying sorry to the woman I hurt." Meanwhile, Sarah had become one of Australia's most respected advocates for domestic violence prevention. She'd been appointed to the National Domestic Violence Advisory Council and had written a best-selling memoir titled Phoenix Rising: From Market Floor to Purpose. Her book became required reading in social work programs across Australia and New Zealand. The final chapter was titled Forgiving the Unforgivable, where Sarah wrote, "Forgiveness isn't about condoning what was done to you. It's about refusing to let the person who hurt you control your future. Tom Mitchell stole years of my life, my sense of security, and my ability to trust easily. But I refused to let him steal my capacity for joy, love, and purpose. When I forgave Tom, I wasn't setting him free. I was setting myself free. Free from bitterness, free from anger, free from the victim identity that could have consumed me. Today, when I speak to women experiencing abuse, I tell them, your abuser's actions revealed his character, not your worth. You are not what happened to you. You are how you rise from it." 10 years later. The legacy. A decade after that fateful day at Wellington Market, Sarah and Marcus Hayes celebrated their 10th wedding anniversary with a quiet family dinner. Their daughter Hope, now 13, and their son Justice, now 7, sat at the table listening to their parents share the story of how they met. "So Daddy," Hope asked, "if Tom hadn't been mean to Mama, you two would never have met?" Marcus and Sarah exchanged glances. "That's right, sweetheart," Marcus said. "Sometimes the worst things that happen lead to the best things in life." "But that doesn't mean bad things are good," Justice piped up, wise beyond his years. "No," Sarah agreed, reaching over to ruffle her son's hair. "Bad things are still bad. But we have a choice about what we do with our pain. We can let it make us bitter, or we can let it make us better." The Phoenix Foundation now operated in every Australian state and had expanded to New Zealand. Over 50,000 women had been helped directly, and millions more had been reached through awareness campaigns, educational programs, and policy changes the foundation had advocated for. Tom Mitchell, now in his late 40s, continued his work as a financial counselor and volunteer speaker. He'd helped establish second chance programs in 3 states, rehabilitation initiatives for men who'd committed domestic violence and financial abuse. Once a year, on the anniversary of Sarah's abandonment, Tom made a donation to the Phoenix Foundation. He never publicized it, never sought recognition. It was simply his way of honoring the woman whose life he'd shattered, but who'd somehow found the strength to forgive him. Rachel Barnes, Tom's former girlfriend, had become a social worker specializing in helping other women, the girlfriends and mistresses who unwittingly become complicit in married men's betrayals. Her program helped these women recognize warning signs and avoid relationships with married or committed men. "I was a victim too," Rachel often said in workshops, "but I was also complicit once I knew the truth. I have to live with that. But I can help other women avoid the mistakes I made." The final chapter. On the 10th anniversary of Sarah's abandonment, the Phoenix Foundation held a special commemorative event at Wellington Market, the very place where Sarah's nightmare had begun and her transformation had started. A bronze plaque was installed near the food court, reading, "On this spot in August 2014, Sarah Hayes, née Mitchell, waited 3 hours for a husband who would never return. But while she waited, she met Marcus Hayes, who would change her life forever." This plaque commemorates not just Sarah's story, but the stories of all survivors who refuse to let betrayal define them. May everyone who passes this place remember, your worst day can become the doorway to your best life. Sarah stood before the crowd, her white cane resting against the podium, and delivered a speech that would be remembered for years to come. 10 years ago, I sat on a floor just meters from where I stand now. I was broken, humiliated, abandoned. I thought my life was over at 32 years old. I thought I would never be loved again, never accomplish anything meaningful, never be anything more than Tom Mitchell's discarded wife. But I was wrong. So beautifully, wonderfully wrong. Today, I stand here not as a victim, but as a victor. Not as someone who was defined by what happened to her, but as someone who was refined by it. That day on this floor taught me that I was stronger than I ever imagined. It taught me that strangers can become family, that love can bloom in the darkest places, that purpose can emerge from pain. To every woman listening who feels broken right now, your story isn't over. This isn't the end. It's the beginning. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become after it happens. To every person who's ever witnessed someone in need and wondered if they should help. Help. Always help. You might not just be saving someone's day, you might be changing their entire life. And to Tom Mitchell, wherever you are, thank you. Thank you for abandoning me, because being abandoned led me to discover who I truly was. Thank you for betraying me, because that betrayal taught me the difference between conditional love and unconditional love. Thank you for stealing from me, because losing everything showed me what really mattered. Sarah paused, emotion thick in her voice. I forgive you, Tom. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. I hope you found peace too. In the crowd, Tom stood quietly, tears streaming down his face. Next to him, his wife squeezed his hand supportively. He would never forget the woman whose life he'd destroyed, but he would spend the rest of his life honoring her by helping others avoid his mistakes. As the ceremony concluded, Sarah and Marcus walked hand in hand through the market where their story began. Hope and justice ran ahead, laughing and playing, oblivious to the significance of the location. Can you believe it's been 10 years? Marcus asked. Sarah smiled. Sometimes it feels like yesterday. Sometimes it feels like a lifetime ago. Do you ever regret anything? Not for a second, Sarah said firmly. If I could go back and change what happened, I wouldn't. Because changing the past would mean losing you, losing our children, losing the foundation, losing the chance to help thousands of women. My pain had a purpose, Marcus. It always did. I just couldn't see it yet. They stopped at the exact spot where James Chen had found Sarah that August day. You know what I remember most about that day? Sarah said softly. What's that? I remember thinking that no one would ever love me again. That I was too broken, too damaged, too blind, literally and figuratively, to deserve love. Marcus pulled her close. And now? Now I know that the right person doesn't see your scars as damage. They see them as proof of your strength. You didn't fall in love with the idea of rescuing me, Marcus. You fell in love with who I was becoming. Who you always were, Marcus corrected gently. I just saw it before you did. As they walked back to their car, past the plaque commemorating Sarah's darkest day, the sun began to set over Brisbane. The city lights started twinkling on, and even though Sarah couldn't see them, she could feel the warmth of her husband's hand in hers, hear her children's laughter ahead of them, and know with absolute certainty that she had risen from the ashes. The phoenix had not only survived, she had soared. Epilogue ending. Y'all, I'm absolutely destroyed in the best way possible. 10 years later, and Sarah went from that market floor to changing an entire nation. She got her happy ending, her beautiful family, and helped 50,000 women rise from their own ashes. But can we talk about Tom's redemption arc? He didn't get Sarah back, that ship sailed, but he found his own purpose helping other men avoid his mistakes. That's growth, people. That's real growth. And that bronze plaque at the market. I'm crying. Your worst day can become the doorway to your best life. That's not just Sarah's story, that's all our stories. If this entire journey just changed your life, smash that like button until it breaks. Comment, I am a phoenix, if Sarah's story inspired you to rise from your ashes. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that their story isn't over. And subscribe because we're bringing you more incredible true stories of people who refuse to stay down. Remember, you are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become after it happens. Your comeback is always stronger than your setback. Thank you for taking this journey with Sarah, Marcus, and even Tom. Their story proves that love wins, forgiveness heals, and phoenixes always rise. See you in the next video, and remember, your best chapter might be just beginning. Red Heart, Fire Eagle. The end.